Street Fighter has crossed over with various franchises before, and today will be no different. This time they'll be dipping into the world of Dragon Ball. This time a certain martial arts world champion will be joining in the street fighting, and that world tournament champ is none other than the one and only Hercule Satan. The savior of the world himself is going to join the bout and see if he has what it takes to become the Street Fighter champion of the world. So we're going to be looking at Street Fighter 2 specifically and looking at each combatant to see if Hercule has what it takes to beat them. And we'll also break down who Hercule is in case you don't know him and what he's achieved in his long history of martial arts. So, who just is Hercule Satan? Hercule is the winner of the 24th World Martial Arts Tournament, with the 23rd tournament being won by none other than Goku. Now for reference, in the 24th Martial Arts World Tournament, Hercule did not have to fight any of the Z fighters, since none of them entered and none of the old competitors such as Nam and King Choppa entered either. Now that's not to say Hercule is a complete weakling. Despite us seeing Hercule fail so often, he has done some pretty impressive things, like breaking 14 of the 15 cement tiles placed in front of him with a single chop, and scoring pretty high on the punching machine for a character with absolutely zero key control. And despite none of the main Dragon Ball characters re-entering the World Martial Arts Tournament, the fact that he won the entire tournament is still an impressive feat. And let's not forget Hercule's biggest strength is his powers of persuasion. This man single-handedly fooled the entire planet into thinking the Z fighters were just using mirrors and preset stunt explosions to make their feats credible. This ended up fooling everyone into thinking he single-handedly defeated Cell and Boo. But his best and most influential and honest feat is when he persuaded Boo to stop killing people and to become a good person. Some of the techniques Hercule has gathered over the years with his incredible and rigorous discipline training are his patented dynamite kick, where he leaps at an opponent delivering a ferocious kick, the Ultra Megaton punch, where Hercule uses his quote-unquote full power to deliver a devastating blow to the face. He's also just very skilled in basic martial arts as well. Now, Hercule does have access to other various win conditions that he carries on his person, as we see that he carries firearms on him, and also that remote explosive Game Boy aptly named in games as Present for You. Now, you might not think it's fair for me to give Hercule this in a Street Fighter scenario, but hey, if Rolento can carry around and use grenades, I don't see why Hercule can't use any tech either. Also, I will specifically be looking at Street Fighter 2 when it comes to gameplay and which fighters Hercule will be up against, so let's begin. After Hercule has saved the Earth from both Cell and Boo, he'll be enjoying some much needed R&R while both Boo and Bee are out. One of Hercule's many disciples will tell Hercule that he's received an invitation to a tournament with the Shadowloo insignia on the envelope. Hercule, being the greatest martial artist to ever live, doesn't have time to read it and doesn't care. The letter is then read to him. It states that they want Hercule in their tournament because he's such a capable martial artist, and his name is resonated around the world as the savior of the earth, and who better to have joined their tournament than one as powerful as him. Enclosed are also pictures of each of the individual fighters, and it's mentioned that a beautiful woman is one of the fighters. Hercule jumps to attention and snatches the picture of a fighter named Chun-li and fawns over it. He also notices that there is some more writing on the back of her picture. It says, "I knew this would grab your attention, just like I know about how you negotiated your last tournament win with that other woman. Either join my tournament or I'll release that footage to the public, showing that you couldn't beat her in a fair fight." It goes on to say, regardless of your loss to her, you managed to improve your skills and defeat that monster Majin Buu. You must have trained tirelessly so that you would never lose again. Either join my tournament and let me witness the fruits of your labor, or lose everything you have. You have 1 hour to board my private plane to take you to the tournament site. Normally, Hercule would just make Boo go, but he wasn't around, and it's not like Boo knew how to use a cell phone. He couldn't call Videl or Gohan as they were out on their honeymoon and left no number for calling them. And Goku was off training Kami knows where. And he had to board the plane in just an hour. Hercule thought about it and said he already knew all the most powerful warriors as is, so there's no way any of these guys actually could be that strong. So he boarded the plane, and it took him to his first fight with Zangief. Now, Zangief is an expert when it comes to wrestling maneuvers. Hercule does not want this beast of a man to grab him, otherwise Hercule is in for some major damage. Funny enough, Hercule is quick on his feet, and not just when it comes to running away. Spopovich, at first glance, is comparable to Zangief in terms of size and weight. According to the Dragon Ball Wiki, Hercule is 6'2", and Spopovich can still be seen towering over him, and with his giant muscle mass, it's not an exaggeration to compare him to Zangief's size. And with Hercule's exceptional, at least for a normal human, speed, we've seen him dodge Spopovich easily without even being scratched, and could land devastating attacks to the back of his head. This fight would play out similarly, as Zangief's best and most powerful moves are executed when grabbing his opponent, and with his lackluster speed, he wouldn't even be able to touch Hercule, let alone grab him. With a few good kicks and reversals, Hercule should be able to put Zangief down. After that win, Hercule would shout at the top of his lungs, "Is that the best you can do against the Earth's strongest defender? The rest of these fighters will fall by the mighty hand of Hercule Satan." With his first victory getting to his head, he would then be flown to his next fight in Brazil against Blanka. As Hercule enters the arena and sees Blanka, he would freak out at first, but wanting to make it look like he's keeping his composure, he'd shout, "I already destroyed the last green weirdo who thought he could beat me, and you're no different, you pea-brained gorilla." This taunt would piss off Blanka, and he would immediately use his rolling attack on Hercule. Hercule should be able to dodge this, but even if he did get hit, he's taken hits from much stronger opponents, like when Trunks punched him at the tournament, and he was able to still get up and fake not being hurt for long enough to walk all the way to his dressing room and then collapse in pain. And even though he told Trunks to hit him lightly, it's still a stronger punch than most humans would ever be able to deliver. After that attack, Hercule would see an opening and go for his dynamite kick, but just before it lands, he would see Blanka light up like a Christmas tree. You see, Blanka is able to cause himself to become electrified, and upon contact with him, his opponent would become electrocuted. This is dangerous since Blanka can deliver about 150,000 volts of electricity, and if Hercule were to touch him, it could be lights out for him. Once Hercule sees Blanka's electrical current, he would stop short. Since he is now used to superpowered monsters actually being real, this is when he would pull out his gun. Hercule would think there is no feasible way for him to damage Blanka other than shooting him, and would wildly empty his clip until Blanka would be permanently KO'd. Now with Blanka, unable to continue, Hercule would win the match. Hercule would wipe the sweat from his brow and sigh in relief, but he won't have much time to celebrate as his next opponent will be E Honda. Now, E Honda is a pro sumo and very strong. His million hand slaps are incredibly powerful and fast, and just like Blanka, he can launch himself like a projectile and headbutt his enemy. However, Hercule won't need any special tricks to win this fight. Straight up martial arts could be enough for Hercule to win. In terms of gameplay, E Honda has always been a very slow character. Even though he can charge across the arena and headbutt, its travel speed is nothing amazing and can be blocked, or you could just jump over it. Hercule, from the feats he has shown in terms of his fighting capabilities, could tank and block E Honda's best attacks, or even avoid them altogether. With Hercule's athletic ability, he would be able to get behind Honda and pummel his back with a wide range of punch and kick techniques. While a forward assault could be handled well by Honda, getting behind him leaves him defenseless. That's why cross-ups are so deadly in fighting games. And it would be no different here as well. So Hercule could beat E Honda in a straight-up fight. Hercule at this point would be flustered after taking down a handful of great fighters. He's had to use a wide variety of methods to win now, as he's had to juggle fighting quote-unquote fair and relying on some last resorts. It's been a mixed bag for him. But he's won all his fights so far, and he's still letting it get to his head. Next up is Dhalsim. He's an expert when it comes to yoga, and you should believe it with how far he can stretch his limbs. He's also able to blow fire out of his mouth, either as projectiles or using a big flame. Hercule again does have a speed advantage with how slow some of Dhalsim's techniques are. He should be able to counter and attack after dodging some of these attacks. Hercule would have to worry about Dhalsim's teleport, as that is his fastest way to move around the battlefield. But there is a bit of time he needs before before he can attack after teleporting. He can't instantly attack after doing it. So landing a good Megaton punch on him if Hercule can time it after a teleport should be doable. Again, Hercule isn't ridiculously slow and he's pretty nimble as we see throughout the series, so accomplishing a well-timed attack like this after dodging such slow maneuvers should be okay. And to Hercule's benefit, Dhalsim doesn't use too many grapple moves either. Hercule just needs to watch out for this damage increase modifier to make the fight harder. Damn Capcom. And with another tough battle down, Hercule is the winner. Now it's time to face the American All-Star, Ken Masters. Kind of like Hercule, Ken is very capable of working the spotlight. Ken's signature moves are the Tatsumaki, Shoryuken, and Hadoken. He's one of the best fighters in the world and is Ryu's longtime friend and rival. For that reason, he's an extremely skilled opponent. Before the match between Ken and Hercule even starts, Ken would see Hercule's fighting stance and see a bunch of openings for him to exploit.
All right, Blondie, let's get on with it!
Facing off against Ryu and his master has given Ken enough knowledge to see Hercule was lacking in form. Hercule would insult Ken, telling him that a blonde pretty boy wouldn't know anything about real fighting. As the match begins, Ken wouldn't unleash any of his best techniques, as he would want to feel out Hercule first and see how strong he actually is, or if he was just full of it. Hercule would use everything in his martial arts arsenal at his disposal, but Ken would dodge everything but wouldn't hit him like he meant it. He would only give him light blows just to mess with Hercule. Now, Ken's fundamentals in martial arts are Kyokushin, kickboxing, and taekwondo. As for what types of martial arts Hercule employs, I haven't found anything concrete, but let's just assume he's trained in everything Ken has, barring stuff like learning his signature moves. Ken is just an all-around better fighter and has fought opponents that are much stronger than Hercule has ever beaten. With Hercule knowing he's in a slump, he would pull out his secret weapon, his gun. Now Hercule would aim, pull the trigger, and tell him to kiss his pretty boy face goodbye. As the bullets fly towards Ken, Hercule would crap his pants as he sees Ken dodge the bullets. Now Ken should be able to dodge bullets because Ryu can. In Street Fighter Alpha, which takes place before Street Fighter 2 in chronological order, we see Ryu effortlessly dodging bullets. And with Ken receiving the same training as well as being able to trade blows with Ryu constantly, he should be able to match in dodging speed. Now with almost all his tricks gone, Hercule would grovel and beg for Ken not to hurt him, and he began to praise Ken for his superior martial arts, and told him he'd spread the word of Ken the Great who defeated the mighty Hercule. Ken and who he is as a person doesn't needlessly hurt people, especially if they aren't a threat. However, there are times Ken has had to check his ego because he just lets the limelight absorb him too much. And with Hercule noticing how much Ken was embarrassing him on purpose just to stroke his own ego, he could play that to his advantage. Before Hercule left the arena, he'd have one final trick. If Ken's ego could be stroked, he might just have a chance at victory. Hercule told Ken that when he got back, he would love to make a video game about him. And he had a beta copy with him that was supposed to star Hercule, but with Ken being the better martial artist, Hercule said that he would switch him out with Ken. Hercule then explained that he'd want Ken to give it a try so they could mass market his appeal, but in order for Ken to endorse it, he'd have to try it first. Hercule told him no problem and let him have at it. Ken told him that the game was pretty fun and that Hercule might suck as a martial artist, but he'd be great when it comes to product placement. That's when Hercule would slowly tiptoe away while Ken got absorbed in the thought of being one of the greatest video game characters ever. And then suddenly, there was an explosion. After the smoke cleared, Hercule nearly threw up with what was left of Ken. Now, Ken has taken hits from strong fighters before, but the Game Boy Hercule gives Boo is supposedly a plastic explosive. Commonly, plastic explosives are used with C4, and depending on how much Hercule managed to fit in there, and with the Game Boy being so close up to Ken's head, the explosion force would be too great for Ken to survive a blast directly to his head. Hercule would move on to his next fight after cleaning himself up from all the vomit. Now with less than half of the remaining 8 original Street Fighter 2 characters left on the board, Hercule would see his end goal in sight. He was told his next bout would be against Ryu. When Hercule stepped off the plane and onto the fighting arena, he mentioned that he just beat a guy dressed in the same outfit except he was red. Ryu would tell him that it sounded like he had fought Ken and told him he's surprised he even beat Ken. Hercule would then boast that he didn't just beat Ken, he sent him on a one-way trip to the other side. Ryu wouldn't believe him because he could just tell from looking at Hercule that he wasn't a competent enough fighter to do that. Then a voice resonated throughout the battlefield. To Ryu, it sounded like Bison. Bison displayed on his outside aircraft monitor pictures of Ken's deceased corpse, and that Hercule was telling the truth. Ryu's eyes lit up with rage at Hercule, and then Hercule began to get a bad feeling in the pit of his stomach, except this time there was no TV crew to save him. Ryu charged at Hercule, going crazy, throwing out vicious attacks. Hercule was spitting up blood and fell to the ground. Hercule tried to shoot Ryu, but it wouldn't work. And Ryu, even if he was in a good mood, wouldn't fall for any of Hercule's lies to get him to hold on to an explosive device. Hercule knew it was over. Bison, watching the match, simply smiled and said, "After watching his matches, I knew he was a buffoon, but he did get farther than I thought and caused Ryu emotional grief, so it was well worth it." Ryu went for the killing blow but was stopped. Hercule unfolded his hands from his eyes and saw Goku holding onto Ryu's arm. Goku told him that Gohan and Videl asked for him to look for him since Hercule was scheduled for a TV biography titled The Life of a Hero, and it was over the news that sadly the program had to be delayed because Hercule was missing. Gohan and Videl happened to see this on TV, and Gohan was able to ask King Kai to look for him, and when he mentioned to Goku if he could check on Hercule because it seemed he was out of his league in a tournament, Goku jumped at the chance to go. Hercule, crying tears of joy, explained to Goku what was going on. Goku then told Ryu he would wish Ken back for him with the Dragon Balls. But in the meantime, Goku would sub in for Hercule for the rest of the tournament, and after Goku entered, it was over in a matter of minutes as he took down the rest of the fighters with just one shot each and completely wiped Bison off the map. So Hercule's image as the strongest was maintained. So could Hercule survive Street Fighter 2? Absolutely not. Many of the strongest Street Fighter characters are too much for Hercule to handle, and Hercule's best two feats are anime only and are not in the original manga. Those being the pulling of the trucks and then punching through one of them and ripping the phone books in half. With those gone, it makes much more sense when Gohan tells himself that Videl is stronger than her father. As for feats like dodging Kid Buu's attacks, those are just happy comedic accidents and not to be taken seriously. It wouldn't make much sense that Hercule would be capable of dodging Kid Buu but couldn't dodge a bullet. Same goes for Cell. We know Cell was intentionally using zero force when he hit Hercule, and it was a one-time gag. And while Kid Trunks did punch Hercule in the face and sent him into a wall, that doesn't mean that if the Street Fighter characters hit him, it wouldn't do anything to him. Even after Trunks hit him, Hercule was in immense pain, and it took him a while to struggle up to his feet in order to fake being uninjured, but then immediately collapsed in pain later. And that's from a punch where Kid Trunks was holding back. Even though Hercule survived that punch, it doesn't mean any connecting blows the Street Fighter characters land would do next to nothing to him, and they wouldn't be holding back. And Ryu would not have been the only roadblock. The remaining fighters, being Guile and Chun-li, would also be capable of beating Hercule. With Guile's military training and access to Sonic Boom, Hercule would have nothing to defend against that. As with Chun-li, she has the advantage of both being an amazing martial artist and having official police training. Hell, we even see that she carries a gun. Not that she would need to use it on Hercule though. I could see Hercule being able to defeat Balrog and Vega, but definitely not Sagat or Bison, who in many ways are just as deadly or even deadlier than Ryu. Still, Hercule taking out as many fighters as he did, no matter the methods, is still impressive. Hercule should be taken more seriously as a normal human fighter and has had us, the real audience, genuinely cheer for him throughout Dragon Ball Z. But sometimes you have to know when you're beat, and if anybody knows that, even if they are putting up a front, it's Hercule. With that said, it's off to do some TV specials and get back to living the life. I guess he kind of deserves it. But what do you guys think? Should Hercule have won the whole thing? Should he have been defeated much sooner? Let me know your thoughts on the matter. All I know is I can't get enough of Hercule's antics, and I can't wait to see him put the hurt on people in more video games. Thanks for watching, everyone. This is me, Nathan out. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're looking forward to next week because that's the start of our Halloween segment. So dynamite kick that subscribe button because you won't want to miss out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.